Welcome to 1 Million Cups. We've got two really good presenters this morning. First time attendees, could you raise your hand, please? Oh, that's good. People from outside Springfield? That's good too. Okay, probably the most important. Entrepreneurs? Oh, that's really good too. Hey, we're recording this, so when the presenters get done, there's going to be Q&A. So please hold the mic up because we are recording this for posterity. And we'll look for Devin. Everybody knows Devin. And Chad. They're going to be running the mics on the Q&A. So, Jeremy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Jeremy Adams with Nonprofit Toolbox.
Maya. Jeremy Adams. Good morning. Good morning. Can't hear you. Did you hate that? I hate it. So my name is Jeremy Adams. I work for a company called Verve. We're a software development firm. We're housed here in the E-Factory at Originate, which is a co-working facility. Jim, got a little plug there. Here to talk about Nonprofit Toolbox. Nonprofit Toolbox is a software solution for nonprofits to manage their online presence. We are partnering with nonprofits to help them build more homes, to feed more people, to help the needy, to serve, to do more. In short, Nonprofit Toolbox helps nonprofits spend less time doing management of their online stuff and spend more time on their mission. So it's a problem. Years ago, we started working with nonprofits, working as a web development firm. We were building websites for nonprofits. A few things that we noticed: nonprofit websites suck. If you have a website and you're a nonprofit and it's a really nice website, I apologize for that. You're one of the 1%. With that, they typically have a lot of third-party services that they have to deal with. So they have volunteer management, they have donation management, they have email campaign management, they have event management, they have all these things that taken separately, they cost a lot of money. They keep building up. And they're very difficult to integrate. They have to be shoved into the website somehow. They don't match the theme. They are clunky, and people are kind of afraid of them. They take them out of the website, those types of things. They can be very expensive. They're difficult to integrate, and they're confusing for the users. We're a software development company, and it's difficult for us to do all of that. If you're a director of a nonprofit and you're trying to do that yourself, that can be very difficult. So our solution, a fully integrated system that combines website management, content management system similar to like WordPress or something like that you've used, that integrates all of those different modules: volunteer management, donation management, email campaign management, and event management, all under one dashboard. So the users then are creating one login that can be used throughout all of those systems, and the nonprofit then has one system to manage. It's scalable in that not all nonprofits are the same size and not all the same, they haven't been around the same amount of time, so they may not need all of the services. So our job is to help them grow through that. So they can start out very small with simply a website, and they can go through each of the modules, and we keep it really simple. We work with nonprofits all around the world, and some of our biggest issues are, as nonprofits in the United States, is we have websites that are donated. Well, in other countries, they have a lot bigger problems than that. So if we can work with other countries and keep it simple enough for them, then we can work with nonprofits here in the United States. So what does it have? Templates. Just breaking it down into some really simple terms. As a nonprofit, you can sign up, you can choose a template, or we can build you a custom template, and you can have your website up and running in less than 24 hours. Of course, you have to enter in all of your content, but you can feasibly be up and running in very little time. volunteer management. So volunteer management integrated with the system allows your users that are signing up on your website, signing up for your email campaigns, to easily log in, see what campaigns, the volunteer campaigns you have running at any given time, and sign up for those through the website. Donation management. Users can donate through the same login. All of this is tracked through the same dashboard in the back office. And they can choose. You can set up multiple campaigns and allow the user to decide where they want those donations to go. What percentage do they want associated with just general giving, or do they want to build a home? So we've worked with Habitat for Humanity for a long time, and so this is geared, a lot of what we do is geared towards Habitat for Humanity, but it's not necessarily only for Habitat for Humanity. But for this one, you see that as you grow your building percentage here, it then highlights what you're paying for within the home. So it's just a visual to show them what they're investing in. Okay, where are we at now? Newsletter management. So all of you probably use Constant Contact or Campaign Monitor, or one of those type services. We have a fully integrated system. It's in the same system. It's a proprietary system that's integrated into the back office. So you manage all of your newsletters through that system. You build them there, you send them out of there, and you can track them within that system. So with that, you're setting up volunteer opportunities inside of your website. You're setting up newsletters that then integrate with that and are feeding that information to your users, as well as driving them towards the donations. Future development, we're in the process right now of creating an app for volunteer management, so that when someone hits the site, when they're at the site that they're volunteering, they can check in, they can get information, they can sign off on waivers and those sort of things. So from the beginning, we wanted to make this easy. We wanted to make it simple, and we wanted to make it affordable. So again, going back to some are just getting started, and some have been here for a while. So we want to grow with them. We don't want them to overextend themselves. So they can start with a very simple website, $14 a month. That'll get them rolling. Now we grow with them. We help them get to the next level. We now manage your volunteers. So let's get people coming and helping you. Then we move up to donations. Now we can start accepting donations, start driving funds into that organization, and then tying that all together with newsletter management. Store is just there, just in case you were wondering. We built a store. It's not very useful for nonprofits, so we're learning through that. Newsletter pricing is pretty standard throughout the newsletter campaign management industry. It's about the same pricing anywhere else. So where are we at right now? We launched our MVP, minimum viable product, last year. We've got a couple of local organizations on the system, Habitat Springfield, Ozarks Counseling Center. We actually have a Habitat country affiliate in Ethiopia on the system, and that's been very exciting. So like I said, if we can get it running for them, then we can get it running for these guys here. Am I out of time?
It's up to you, buddy.
Let's go with some questions. Disclaimer, I was asked like 2 days ago, and I threw this together yesterday. It's not an excuse. It's a disclaimer. There's a difference. Thank you.
All right, we'll open it up for questions.
Just to kick it off, Jeremy, tell us about the development cycle. How you got the first MVP launched, who was your first client, and how you implemented that to start to refine the product.
Okay, yeah, that's great. We were talking about this morning. So with our development cycle, we have a few different products, but the way we see it and what I was sharing with you this morning, someone said it, don't know who said it, but when you launch your MVP, if you're not embarrassed by it, then you've launched too late. So Nonprofit Toolbox was right on time, because we were definitely embarrassed by a lot of the things that happened within that. Like I said, we started this development 2 years ago. We launched last year. Fortunately, we had a built-in test case. So Habitat Springfield, we've been working with them for going on 4 or 5 years now, and we built a few other early websites, and we've developed this through learning through them. So we've spent the last 8 to 10 months refining the system. So that's our strategy. We build it. We just build it, and then we launch it, and then we start fixing it as fast as we can. So rapid iterations.
So nice presentation, Jeremy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So competitive landscape. Would you compare and contrast this product with Nation Builder, and where are you going to beat them on feature set?
Well, Nation Builder, I'm not entirely familiar with. We've researched a lot of different systems out there, and it's kind of like a blur. We've seen so many websites. And like I said before, we were really targeting Habitat affiliates to start. And so that was our goal. We knew that Habitat affiliates were doing this, and this, and it was all segmented, and it was really difficult to manage. So as far as speaking on Nation Builder, I can't, but I can tell you our strategy to set us apart is we are integrating all of these different systems together. So if they do that, then we are going to do better. Yes.
I'm Vicki Hicks from the College of Business at Missouri State. Can you tell us more about your marketing plan or how you would like to grow besides just the Habitat affiliates?
Sure, yeah. So we started a campaign last year called Build, and that's what you see here on some of the seats. So our marketing campaign was geared specifically, again, to Habitat affiliates. We wanted that to be our test. We wanted them to test drive the system and tell us what's wrong with it. So going beyond that, we again threw this together yesterday. So we do not have a marketing plan yet beyond Habitat affiliates. We do have other organizations on it, like Ozarks Counseling Center, and it works well for them.
With nonprofits, crowdfunding has become a really interesting way for them to raise funds. Have you thought about adding a crowdfunding type portal added into the system?
Yeah, so that is phase 4-ish. Okay, so a lot of these things that we were talking about, volunteer management and donation management, could easily be ported into or collected into a portal. So if you're registered with Habitat Springfield, you can now go to Denver or Kansas City or St. Louis, and you can look for volunteer opportunities through the portal. So all of those are collected into that, as well as donation possibilities as well through the app.
Jeremy, is there a threshold where a nonprofit or any sort of organization is possibly too big to have your services, and it'd be best for them to take it in-house instead of have a third party like yourself?
Well, sure, there is. If they are of that size that they can afford to have a full team. So that's the key, is having a team of people. A lot of nonprofits don't have that available to them, building a team of that size. So they need designers, and they need developers, and they need marketing people. So sure, there are those cases, but for the most part, that's very minimal.
So then, with that being said, who's the ideal target market or target organization for nonprofit Toolbox?
Well, anyone that's trying to grow their organization, trying to get from where they're at now to whatever their goals are. So we can take a small startup nonprofit and start them just simply on getting them a website presence, and then we can grow them through it. Or they can jump right into the full system that they already understand because they've been doing a lot of those things already. Yes, sir.
Got a question for you. A lot of nonprofits might not have someone technically inclined or understand pixels and aspect ratio and fun stuff like that.
Sure.
How are they able, those smaller size organizations, which will really appreciate your price point, how are they going to be able to leverage this if they don't necessarily have someone on staff who can handle this kind of heavy lifting?
Right. Well, we definitely suggest that they utilize someone that has that experience. But we also have a very complete training program for them to help them through all of that. We do, with each template, there's always something like a sliding banner or something in that. And for us, that seems very simple. But to get that in there right and to make it look good, to simply make it fit is difficult. So we go through that process with them. We kind of hold their hand. Again, we're walking them through this process at every step of the way. So we will help them find the software that they need to make a banner and get it the right size, and tell them about DPI and what it needs to be. So yeah.
Jeremy, it occurs to me that this might work well for small businesses that aren't necessarily nonprofit. Sounds like a lot of your portals could be accustomed to a for-profit business.
Sure.
Are you ever going to, or had you thought about gearing it towards small business?
We really want to stay focused right now, as some of the questions were geared towards, how are we going to grow outside of our current marketing plan, to really test the system, to really know what we need to offer nonprofits. And again, our goal is to help nonprofits. We maybe shouldn't say this, but we have other products. Our goal is to help nonprofits. So simply put, that's what we're trying to do. Sure, it could be used that way, but we're at the end of all of this, it will be geared so closely to what a nonprofit needs that it may not work for a small business.
As a volunteer in several nonprofits, my question is, from a user standpoint, how can you cooperate or coordinate your efforts with a nonprofit so that they don't feel that they've gotten into a commitment that may be over their head as far as their ability to work with and pay for a product like this? How can you work with them, help them ease into this product without getting over their head?
Okay, sure. Where am I at? Going back, number one, there's no long-term commitment with it. Oh yeah, here we are. There's no long-term commitment with it, and as stated before, you can start here. To test the system, to see what you have available to you, you can test through the website setup. With any nonprofit, they can have access to all the modules for a short period of time to see if they work for them. And again, there's no long-term commitment. You can turn this on, and you can use it for 2 months, and then you can decide that it's not for you, and you can move on. So that was also very important, that you don't get locked into long-term commitments.
Stephen Owen. Loud. I'm going to piggyback off a couple questions over here.
Sure.
The first one is do you require that somebody is a 501c3 providing that legal side of things? And then second, assuming I do utilize your service, do I have the ability to do custom code through your templates? And then I guess in turn, at the same time, a lot of nonprofits don't have the ability to design.
Sure.
Could you just completely do that for me if I want some adjustments off your templates?
Yes. Yes, it is possible, or no, it's not possible if you're dangerous and you're going to mess it up. So we can set it up both ways. We can put all of your templating into an area that's protected, or we can put it out there where you can mess with it. So all of them are enclosed in their own little bubble, so it won't mess with another system. Repeat the first question again? No, absolutely not, because at this stage, you may not be there yet. You're still trying to develop who you are, and so a lot of that is building your presence, building your image, and getting that, because it's going to take a little while.
Now, there are two things that every organization is going to want, and that is visibility. But then there's one aspect that a nonprofit needs is transparency. As in, you have your president, you have your
Sure.
secretary, you have your treasurer, and there are always detractors in these organizations. If it's a church or a nonprofit, there's always somebody just plain griping all the time about everything. And it'd be nice if the software could address the transparency issues.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah.
Just a little
Well,
bit.
somebody comes to your website and there's you'll have the meeting minutes. The secretary. See, whenever you volunteer for any of these things, it's if you're the secretary, you've got to make the secretary report. If you're the treasurer, you got to make the treasury report. You're the president, you've got to listen to all these people didn't like what was said at the last meeting.
Okay, yes. So I think I see what you're saying. And with the system, it's similar to any content management system where you're able to create pages as you need to and grow your website as large as you need it to be. You can build in areas where you have file uploads, and you can safely put those uploads up on your website and things like that. Does that answer your question? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you can you create pages for that and create an area within your website that you can offer that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just wondering about what if the client said, well, I've been doing this for a while and I'd like to purchase the site that I've been paying for each month and maybe take that to a different host.
Sure.
Or, is that possible? Is it proprietary software?
It is possible, and it's not possible.
Okay.
So, if you have us build you a custom template, and that there is an additional cost to that if you want it to be customized to your nonprofit, and that's based on our meetings with that organization and what they need. So, if we do that for you, then you will get an export of your website and all of your templates and assets that you need for that, and you can take that wherever you go. Now, you could not take this and set it somewhere and off and running. That won't work. This is a software as a service, so you're in our system, and it's running off of one system that we manage one time. So you can't just take it and fire it up again.
Jeremy, can you tell us what your technology stack is?
Sure. Yeah. So it's honestly pretty basic setup. It's a PHP-driven website. Back office is PHP. It's driven on a MySQL database, and all the front end is HTML and JavaScript. So nothing too fancy there.
Where does it live? Where do you host it?
We host the service on our own servers.
Jeremy, as we wrap up, tell me about the road ahead, what you need to finish out the product, and then we're going to wrap up with the same question: how can we as a community help you?
Well, thank you. Yeah, sure. We need more nonprofits on the system. We need to continue to test it out and find what they need, what we can add to the system, or what they do not enjoy about the system. So we need local nonprofits that we can work with closely to find out what those things are. We have still a lot of development to go. We know that. We probably have another year or so of development to really round the system out.
Sweet. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks.
All right, before we transition to our next speaker, if for those of you in the back, there's some seats up front if you guys want to grab a seat. Don't be bashful. There's some up here too. In this section, we always try to add community events and what we call the entrepreneurial stack. And we constantly encourage everyone in this room, if you have some events, if you have some organizations, some resources that anybody can benefit in the entrepreneurial community or in the business community, please let us know. And we'd love to share and promote that event for you. Also, as always encouraged, we kind of figured this was a given, but you're definitely encouraged to stick around here at the E-Factory. You can hang out in this room or in the lobby and stick around and meet your peers and do some networking. And then, on behalf of 1 Million Cups and myself, I want to thank each and everybody for coming out. We've been doing this for a while now, and it's really been working. And I want to thank you all for investing in us, investing in yourselves, and investing in the community, because that's really what we're here for. So our next speaker is Rachel Anderson with Alumni Spaces. We're going to change some things up on the Q&A for you. Hopefully it all works out, but we're good. Take it away, Rachel. Thank you.
Actionable results. There we go. I have sound now. And okay, there we go. So I think I'm going to have to use it over here. So our vision is to empower organizations to operate and engage more effectively by basically bridging the gap between online action and offline engagement. Our team is made up of 2 individuals in addition to myself. So Andrew Saforic handles the tech side of things. He's actually originally from Republic, Missouri. And then Nick Trusty handles sort of our national association chapters, and originally from Kansas City. You'll actually get to see both of them here in a few minutes. They live in New York, but we're going to Skype them in for the Q&A piece, so save your hard questions for them. And then I'm, of course, Rachel Anderson. I live here in Springfield, Missouri. I do sort of our marketing and work with our individual chapters as well. We met in 2004 at Mizzou, all involved in student government together. I was student body president, Andrew was vice president, and then Nick oversaw our student activities. So we like to say, since we've been working together for quite a while, we've kind of ironed out all the wrinkles. So the opportunity. Right now, alumni associations need a better kind of real-time idea of what's going on with their chapters, kind of on the ground. They don't want to wait until the end of the year to figure out, if a chapter's succeeding or if a chapter's failing. By then, it's too late. And then also, groups want to engage more local alumni. They want to, get the word out about the events. Also increase kind of their participation for the different activities that they're having. The problem of this can really be summed up into 3 main buckets. So consistency. Branding's a good thing. Universities and alumni associations want to have a good image. We want alumni associations and their chapters to be able to be creative, but we also kind of want to eliminate, that GeoCities 1998 look and make sure everything has really good brand integrity. Organizations, so with that, a lot of different groups are required to provide the same information on a lot of different platforms multiple times. It's just really ineffective. And then third is clarity. So again, like which group is growing the fastest, which needs some more work, what do we need to do, what do we like, don't like. So right now organizations are really kind of taking a duct tape approach. So if a lot of alumni associations, if you ask them to show what's going on with their chapters, they basically have a staff person export something from Excel, figure out how to make pivot tables, which usually requires Googling how to make pivot tables, taking those pivot tables, trying to make them into something meaningful, putting it into PowerPoint, and then sharing it to someone else on staff. If you're lucky, this happens once a year. If you're really lucky, it maybe happens twice a year. So again, there's really no real-time solution in place, except for us. So that kind of brings you to our solution. So a single platform that provides associations really actionable results in real time to see what's happening across the organization. So alumni associations can see really real-time results. They can notice if a chapter is slipping, address that instantly. They can notice if a group is doing really well and replicate those results elsewhere. So I'm going to show you kind of the back end and the front end of our website, so it gives you kind of a good idea, or of our product. So it gives you a good idea of what takes place. So your local group's going to create the content. So this is the back side. So let's say you're having a watch party. You input it here. You can then publicize it to all of your social media channels with the click of a button. So instead of taking that same information, creating a Facebook event, posting it on Twitter, creating something on Eventbrite, that same information that you use to populate your website also goes out to all your social media channels. Here's kind of a good case study from one of our New York groups. They actually saw a traffic surge of over 5 times by switching to alumni spaces. One of the reasons is it's so easy to use, and again, you don't have to replicate that data, so it's not overwhelming for a lot of these chapter volunteers. This is what the Alumni Association sees. So now they can really see how many events are happening within the next week. They can see where in the world they're really happening. They can see how many people are attending, how much money is raised, and then this kind of last chart over here is the different type of events that are taking place. So they have a really good snapshot of what's going on. We have this fun animated case study. I'm not going to show it today just because of time constraints, but if you go check out our website, alumnispaces.com, you can see it. I think it gives you a good window into what we do. So our current market is really made up of alumni associations. We've decided to focus on them because we really want to hone our product. Our revenue comes from 2 different sources. So our Ensemble product is basically a website for independent local groups. So you're the Springfield chapter, the Mizzou Alumni Association, we can give you an external facing website. We also market to organizations, so that's our Symphony product that I just kind of walked you through and showed you. So associations have all of their groups on our platform, also getting those real-time actionable results. We know that a lot of the situations, the alumni associations face are not unique to them. So we see ourselves expanding to other federated organizations, so other kind of decentralized groups that have that main kind of governing body. So for example, fraternities and sororities, Rotary groups, service organizations, that sort of thing. You can see some of our clients over here. We developed this product with the University of Missouri, so it's really, we took the time to figure out what associations' pain points were and solve those. Also, another one that's not up there is Arkansas, which we just closed a few weeks ago, so that's kind of fun too. And then just to give you an idea of kind of where we started. So we started with a website called My Alumni Bar. So if you're visiting New York, you want to go watch the Cardinals game and figure out, what bar to go to, you would go to My Alumni Bar for a whole host of reasons, and honestly, because the market demanded a pivot, and there was just not the tools necessary for alumni associations to use. We pivoted it into alumni spaces, and kind of next up, we're going to do an integration with like CRMs, donation processing, that sort of thing. So I wanted to kind of explain two different issues that we've sort of faced and see if you guys have any suggestions or really open to any ideas. The first one is our sales cycle. If you guys know anything about alumni associations, it sometimes is a lot of planning. So, we might be talking to someone about an integration for 2016 just with their fiscal year budgets. So that's one thing that we've kind of encountered that's been a little bit difficult. And then the second is just getting everyone to expand their idea of what kind of some of these management organizational tools are. So we're not another social media network. We're not just a web development company. A lot of times when we call in, we might get kind of transferred to the IT person or the social media person. But we want to shift everyone's thinking, because the last thing you want is to join another social network. Some of our competitors have done that, and I'd say that they're not successful. Mizzou tried that, it didn't really work. So we want to help our clients go out and find their alumni, because you already exist, you're already on all these networks. So with that, I'll open up to questions, and we're going to switch it over, and I'll have Nick and Andrew up here as well. Yeah. There we go. Okay, you guys can hear us?
Yeah.
And we can see you.
Excellent. How about a round of applause for that working? Okay, we'll just kick it off with the first question. Talk about your customer acquisition as schools are budgeting out sometimes 1 year, 2 year in advance, how that sales cycle goes and how hard it is to overcome that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Nick, do you want to kind of talk about our sales cycle, customer acquisition?
Sure. So we have two primary ways that we go about picking up clients for the Symphony product. The first really is through referral and word of mouth, having those associations contact us, and once they do, we go down the process of demoing it. Typically, we'll eventually end up in a room with about 10 to 12 people that are associated with the association, telling them about the product and how it works. And from there, it's a rather lengthy process, I will say. But typically, alumni associations have some money set aside for projects such as this, not knowing exactly where it's going to be spent. So it might be spent on website upgrades, it might be spent on updating their CRM or doing various other projects like that. And that's where we kind of come into play. For the University of Florida, for example, that we're close to signing, and I think that we'll have a contract with within the next couple of weeks, we started working with them in February. And when we went down there in March to demo the product to the major decision makers at the university, since then they've allocated some money from the budget that was in this year's fiscal, and some money in next year's fiscal to that. So it usually works out to a line item that they've set aside money for projects like this.
And what we found is we end up with a champion or two within the organization, and then it's a lot of consensus building and committee meetings over the course of months. So we know that we have a strong foothold in the door, and they have to convince a lot of other people. And being public universities, they've got to go through the due diligence of making sure they're looking at everybody. So we have yet to encounter a situation where we're not pitted against competition.
And I'd also give a kind of a real life example with Arkansas. So we started talking to their national association for the Symphony product, but at the meantime, we're going after some of their local chapters. So we have both New York and San Francisco chapters on board now. So it kind of helps us to have internal allies who really like our, our product. It's easy to use. Then they can go back to their national association as well. So we kind of do a twofold approach.
How would you, if you were going into a room with board members who were skeptical, who said, well, we have this awesome Facebook group and it does everything we need to do, how would you respond to that statement? Because, let's be honest, that's what most people are doing. I know that's what my alumni association is doing.
Yeah.
And how would you respond to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've gotten it quite a few times. Andrew, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, that's probably the first question we get from most people that we end up talking to. And that's actually starting to become an easier conversation because even outside of the higher ed space, marketing agencies are starting to see that brands don't necessarily own their existence on Facebook. There was an article that came out last week in a higher ed journal that was actually talking about I forget the university, but there was a university that referred to it as paying rent to Mark Zuckerberg for talking to their alumni. And a lot of people are starting to see that they don't actually own that communication channel and it can change at any time. A couple of years back, Facebook switched their focus from groups to pages. And there are a couple of examples. In fact, we have a quote up on the site that Rachel just went through. Organizations at the local level that went from hundreds of locally engaged people. I think it was a Seattle group that had 450 people in their groups, and that was their primary method of announcing their watch parties and things. Facebook shifted all of their communication to pages, and some of you are probably in organizations that had to go through that pain of re-inviting people and getting people to re-accept and like things. And their membership on Facebook plummeted from 450 to about 75, and their watch party attendees went with it. So that's just one example of how not owning that communication channel left them victim to the shifting product needs of an external group. And we're trying to take that from, rather than publishing just in that one channel, we want to empower you to use that channel, but own the means of communication in it and without it.
Do the school alumni associations give you the satellite alumni, like you said, San Francisco and New York for University of Arkansas? Do they tell you, do they give you those leads so that you can go out and reach each of those, or how do you find the satellite alumni clubs?
Yeah, so they're usually posted online, so we can kind of reach out to them directly. And we'll go through the National Association to kind of sell our Symphony product, but then we target whoever's sort of the association contact based off of the chapter directly.
Tell me about your user base. How many colleges do you have on right now? And as that grows, how does that complement one college to another?
Yeah, so we started off, I don't know if you guys saw on the pitch site some of our logos that we had with the different chapters and universities that we work with. So we started kind of on the local level and started off with those chapters while we were at the same time working for about a year with the Mizzou Alumni Association to build our Symphony product, which we just launched with them this past year. And so we really wanted to get it right the first time because higher ed alumni associations, they used a lot of the same platforms or same mechanisms. And so if we didn't spend the time up front and the product didn't really work that well and we were out to market to everyone, we were just really weren't going to survive. So that gave us the time to do it while we worked individually with those chapters. Those chapters are going to kind of help sell our National Association cycles. So Mizzou is right now the only school in our Symphony product, but we're in really far along negotiations and kind of talks with a few schools that we think are going to join within the next few months. And then at the local level, gosh, how many schools do we have now? 12-ish? 13?
Yeah.
So.
I think the 13 local chapters from universities.
Yeah.
They're all sizable universities.
Yes, a lot of them have multiple chapters for that, one university too. So over 200 different individual sites.
You talk about working with centralized alumni services and then the branches at the various chapters and cities. Have you worked with decentralized offices, maybe the J School specifically, or Duke might have their law school or something like that? Have you branched out into that area, or are you better served working centralized?
Yeah, I think we could, because we see it sort of the same as the chapters and the groups, so same sort of needs or resources. With Mizzou on the national level, we do work with those schools, colleges. One of the groups that has a website is the MU Retirees Association, so it's easy for them to update, it's easy for them to use, so we definitely took that into account. So right now we don't have like a single client that's necessarily like the School of Law for Duke, or something, but we definitely work with those schools as well.
Tell me about the upfront setup cost. It's quite a large barrier to entry. How did you justify that as well as the ongoing cost?
Nick, do you want to talk about this? Did you hear that question?
When we're coming into an association and we're trying to establish exactly how Symphony can best serve them, there's primarily 3 or 4 different pieces that we'll need to customize the product to meet their needs best. So the first one was, typically we like to engage them in the discussion as to how they want the chapter websites to look. So we'll customize the color schemes, we'll customize the background, we'll customize the look of it, a bit to match their branding identity that they want out in the public. The second would be, many of them are using CRMs or raising platforms or donation platforms that we'll want to integrate some of our product with if we can. So we'll look to integrate some of that real-time data that we were talking about of attendance at events or funds raised or number of events into their existing platforms. Because like we said from the very start, we're not looking to replace all of those. The third would be the chapter recognition program. So with the University of Florida or with the University of Missouri, they have different tiers of funding that they give to their chapters based on different levels of activity. So we'll customize that application to make sure that it meets their needs and automates that process as much as possible. And then lastly is the actual network setup. So getting all of the different sites set up, making sure that they're working correctly, customizing some of the language that's present on those sites and in the back end of it, and going on site and training the staff as well as all of the chapter leadership ones that come to campus usually once a year.
And so the cost, at the chapter level, is $200 a year, so pretty good. It's a renewable one, so it's a really cheap website. And then also at the Alumni Association Symphony level, we have an $8,000 initial one-time setup, and that's just kind of what Nick explained, what we do, and then a yearly subscription. So.
Okay, talk to me about what $250,000 buys and how that looks at the road ahead.
I'm sorry?
You're raising $250,000,
oh, yeah.
correct?
Yeah. So, Andrew, do you want to talk about kind of our 3 components? It's on our pitch deck, too. If you guys go to pitch.alumnispaces.com, you can kind of see our different criteria.
Sure. So, firstly, good talent costs money, and we've done a pretty good job so far. We've got the chops to be able to go in and have conversations with people and talk about how great we are. And we've been able to build a product that we're proud of, and we can show and we know does a lot of the functionality that we need it to do. But I'm a self-taught developer. 10 years ago, I'd never written a single line of code. I just taught myself in the past 6 years. And while I like to think that I've been doing a pretty good job so far, it's time to bring in some of the technical expertise that's needed to ramp up to scaling to hundreds of thousands of users per day. And that's something that we need to chase down, as well as being able to go out and get meetings and cold calling people and emailing and working on customer referrals is great. But a lot of the decision makers end up in the same place at various conferences throughout the year. There are probably about a dozen different conferences and expositions that happen across the country every year that a lot of the movers and shakers are attending, and we can get there because our competitors are there. But as I'm sure most of you are well aware, I have never seen a cheap industry conference of any kind anywhere. It costs a fair amount to be able to go there, set up your flyer and fill your wares. So what we're looking for is sort of that boost to enable us to get out there and grow as fast as we possibly can. We're confident in our ability to grow by continuing to bootstrap, but we can accelerate that growth by adding in some capital resources to pave the way a little bit.
Maybe a little less related to our last question, but talk to us about the challenges. Having you guys on Skype is great, but talk to us about the challenges of having people in New York as well as you're here, and how you guys coordinate your efforts best.
Yeah, so I like to think I'm getting closer. I was in LA for a few years, and it worked just well. That's actually kind of when we launched. But first off, I'd say we met in 2004. We worked really well together on a lot of different projects. So that's kind of what I meant by ironing out the wrinkles. We know each other. They're kind of like brothers to me. So we've definitely been really close, and so we sort of already understand that. We have weekly Skype or Google Hangout calls, so we're definitely face to face. We make it a point to be in the same location a few times a year. We'll kind of do some strategic planning or talk about different issues. You probably see this icon down here. Hip chat we use all day, every day, so it's kind of like an on-the-go instant messenger. I have an app on my phone, so I honestly probably see them and talk to them more than even my parents that live in Springfield, which sounds kind of funny, but that's just sort of our life. So it's like they're in the room next door or whatever, so it works for us.
It helps that with my family being a Republic, I'm in the area quite a bit throughout the year, and Nick comes down to visit Springfield a couple of times a year, so we make it work, and it works out pretty well. The only time that we encounter real challenges is when we're trying to explain product ideas, and it's really when you have to use your hands to say, I'm thinking that we should put this here and move that over there, and trying to explain a user process. We started running some challenges there, but we've found a lot of tools online that help us be able to map out those ideas and comment and share back and forth pretty frictionlessly.
Yeah, we use like Evernote, we use High-Rise, Basecamp products, so we definitely use a lot of kind of online group management programs. And Nick also has a whiteboard right next to him too that, we'll kind of, if we want to actually whiteboard stuff out, we can do that in real time, so.
Hey, Nick and Andrew, this is Jim Michaels. We had Belgian beer a couple months ago, so good to see you guys again. But I've got a question for you. So you're coming along in the business, and what would the city of Springfield have to do in the local tech community for you to get you guys to move and locate back here in Springfield and run the business out of Southwest Missouri?
Well, I think that right behind it is a great view of the Empire State Building, which I can't trade it. But we wouldn't be the first company to have development shops in different parts across the country. And with universities obviously being everywhere, I definitely see a future where we exist in a couple of different locations. And we've really set the groundwork, going back to the last question, working remotely with Rachel there and us here. And we've had a few freelancers throughout the past year and a half that are located all over the country. So I think that we've gotten pretty good at working in a decentralized way. And I definitely see a day when we have a development shop or a sales team based somewhere in the Midwest to make it easier to have face-to-face contact with our clients that are throughout the area. And the beauty of building digital products is you can write code anywhere. And there are talented folks in Springfield and Kansas City and St. Louis, as well as here in Brooklyn or back in LA. Anywhere we go, we can find the talent that we need, and it's just a matter of getting to the point where we have those development shops and that footprint in a couple of different areas. So I think the short answer is, give us a couple of years and a little bit of growth, and we may very well have a development shop right down the road.
Yeah, and to their credit, when they come back, we take a tour of all the coffee shops and kind of work all over Springfield too. So they make it a point to come back here quite a bit.
That's a great recovery. So real quick, Rachel, how many of the, I think there's 7, 8 universities here in Springfield. How many of those universities are currently on your platform?
Yeah, so right now we don't have any local universities. We'd love to have you. And I think that, Mizzou would tell you we did a really good job about customizing our product to fit their needs. We've definitely talked to a few. It's been probably, Andrew, when was that? A little over a year and a half, 2 years ago. So, maybe the landscape looks different too. So we know every university has different needs, but we'd love to have some local clients too. So, good question.
Rachel, we'll wrap up with the same question each week. How can we as a community help you?
Yeah, so we kind of thought about this. 3, areas where I think that we could really use a lot of help is, 1, introductions. So A lot of you attended a university, or maybe you're involved with your local chapter. We'd love an introduction, or at least to talk to you or talk to your university to see if alumni spaces might be a good solution. Second, we are raising capital right now, so that's always an opportunity. And then third, I kind of told you one of the hurdles that we face is getting transferred to the IT department or getting transferred to the social media people. So really kind of honing our message. So if you want to take a look at our website, alumnispaces.com, or even just kind of any feedback that you picked up from today, how we presented it and how we might do so in sort of a more concise, efficient way, because we have about 30 seconds when we're on the phone with someone to get to the right person. So anyways, thank you.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks, Jeremy. Two great presentations. Our presentations this morning were a little tech-heavy. You know, I'm over 55, and so Devin and Chad always kind of make fun of me, and I won't go into details on that, all the screw-ups I've made on the technology side. But great presentations, but we're open to all companies. Those of you that have attended know we've had food companies, different manufacturers, across the board. So this is kind of our beg time, which is if you know a company that you think would get some benefit out of presenting at A Million Cups, please have them contact myself, Devin, Chad. Go to our website because we would really like to talk to those folks. That's the biggest hurdle that we face on an ongoing basis. You know, you've got an hour of your day that you come here, and we appreciate everyone's support. But at the same time, we feel a little bit of anxiety to make sure that we're having companies here that will get something out of it, and you'll also bring something to help them. So, I'm sorry. Good. Yeah, that's a good question. Most of the time, we look in that 1 to 5 year range. So we've had companies here that have presented a concept that maybe have a website. And obviously, we've had other companies like Jeremy and Rachel that are launched, that are have customers and looking for additional help. So, 10-year-old companies, maybe if they're trying to do something new that's entrepreneurial within that company, we've even talked about and looked at that as well. So, anything else, Devin, Chet? Okay. As we always end up, or at least Devin ends up, believe it or not, we're going to do this again next week. So, thank you. See you then.